my name is Lema and today I'm going to present the summary of the book The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, biography. Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald, September 24, 1886 to December 21, 1941, was an American novelist and author. He is the owner of several novels, among them The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, same that influenced the adaptation for a film. Summary. I was born in unusual circumstances. This book tells the life of a man with a disease that causes his biological clock to go in reverse. The Barons were a privileged family in the city of Baltimore in Maryland, as they enjoyed an excellent social and economic status. It all happened one morning in September, by 1860, where it was normal for children to be born at home. The Barons had agreed that their first child would be born in a hospital. The father, Roger Bottom, had gotten up very early that day, elegant and determinedly headed to the hospital. His wife would be cared for by a family doctor named Kenny. When upon entering the place, he saw Kenny performing the last cleaning process that takes place after surgery. He approached to ask him, being greeted with a bad gesture by him. Roger told him that he was coming looking for his son, to which Kenny replied that he would no longer be his doctor and that he would go and look for himself. Going through receiving more faces of horror from the nurses, he arrived at the neonatal intensive care unit, where he claimed his son was. But what a surprise there was! When the nurse showed him a man about 60 years with white hair and beard that reached up to his waist. Mr. Barron didn't want to understand what was going on, let alone that the son was his. However, he had to make himself for the false idea to having to take care of him. He bought him adult clothes to get him out of the hospital. When they got home, everything remained the same. Mr. Barron bought toys from Benjamin, as he finally decided to call him, and wanted him to do all the things a child does, but it wasn't the same thing Benjamin wanted. He was old and tired. He was more entertained by talking about other topics with his grandfather while they spoke something. Over the years, Benjamin realized that under the white hair, which he had to dye previously, there were red hairs. He didn't feel too tired as before. At the age of 18, he decided to enter Yale University, just as his father wanted, but the only thing he found when he went to legalize his tuition were mockers. At a dinner to which he accompanied Mr. Bottom, he met Mrs. Hildegard de Moncrief, with whom he fell in love at first sight, and years later they decided to marry, and they had a son, and their marriage was spectacular, or so she thought. He decided to go to the war, and as a great man, he returned with honors, only to realize that his wife had aged even older. He no longer felt like he used to. He liked to go to parties, dances, and do what a 20 years old in the river liked. But she didn't find it interesting anymore. Then they were done. Benjamin wanted to do what he never could at 18, and that was getting to university. But this time he will try Harvard. The students adored him in the early years. Only as he progressed into third year, they began to see him smaller and thinner. He left Harvard 4 years later, with a degree in hand. At that time, Hildegard was in Italy. He went to live with his son, who didn't think his father behaved like a teenage, and he was ashamed of his father. An announcement came to their house one day. It was a letter they had sent to the people who participated in the war. He decided to undertake the trip. He was confident, but his confidence would not last long, as he was returned after 2 days. In 1920, Roscoe's first child was born. By then, Benjamin had the appearance of a child. 5 years later, grandson and grandfather shared the same age. Benjamin entered kindergarten. He had begun to interest in torn paper and colors, but he couldn't always be in that place. He had to return home, to be cared for by a nanny. He drew to the attention of visitors when he roamed around and played in the house. The past, it was behind him, and he no longer remembered anything, neither the good nor the bad moments. Now he was just a little kid. As the days went by, he only remembered the warmth of his bed and the reflections of the man who visited him and the lady who cared for him. Commentary. It's a unique novel. I have never read anything like this. A drama, comedy, and horror tragedy because I found it very sad how a reverse cloud can cause a lot of damage to a person's life. And that will be a reality if this case happened to all of us. I believe that the curious case of Benjamin Bottom will always remain in my memory as one of the best books I have read in my life. Thank you so much.